Welcome back to my channel, guys. So today we're going to be filming a tutorial on how I paint my grass in my paintings. Now, as you can see, I've got a bit of grass here that I've been practicing on, but I'm going to show you how I paint my grass. Now, you can do it however you like. You can use the colours that you like, anything at all. You can use variation of brushes. You can use different paints. You can use oils, watercolours, whatever you like. But this tutorial is going to be in acrylic paints. And I'm going to show you now what we're going to use. So we're going to use a very detailed brush. So this is a very thin brush. Now actually I crafted this myself. It was thicker, but I actually trimmed down the edges and made it very thin, so I can get that sort of thin grass strokes. I didn't have a thinner brush, so you're going to need a very thin brush. And we're going to need a fan brush. Now I use a medium one. As you can see, it's just a medium brush. You can use a bigger fan brush, but I wouldn't recommend the very like small ones, the miniature ones, just because they usually give a more thicker sort of line. Obviously you can use any size you like, but this is just what I use. So a medium to large fan brush. Now mine's already got paint on it because I have been painting before this tutorial, but I'm also going to use just some damp cloths or damp wipes. I've already got some paint on this, but you can get pretty much wipes from anywhere, from supermarkets, from stores, from small little shops, which we can use to kind of wipe our brush off. Now for the paints, now excuse my palette because I've still got paint on here. I've not cleaned it yet, but so today's tutorial we're going to use titanium white, we're going to use some black, we're going to use some light green, some sap green, and a very turquoisey green. Now I think that's called vermilidan, this one. So you can use any greens you like really, but this is kind of a basic sort of green and black and white. This is basic colours. You can even add yellow in there, but today I'm just going to stick to these colours. So there is our paints. You're going to need some water. Now I've already got some water in here. I mean, preferably clean water, but this is still alright for now to use. So just some water and all my other brushes in there which need cleaning as well. This is just I think this is an old, yeah, I brought something off a TikTok shop actually, and it's just literally a little tub that I've reused. And I actually use when I buy washing products for clothes, like the little pods you get, and they come in their little tubs, I actually use them as to store my brushes as well. So you can literally use anything around the house. But anyway, let's start this tutorial. So that's all you're going to need to use for this tutorial. So we're going to start with wetting our brush. Now I'm going to get some of this excess water off. Let me just fan that off. Now we're going to literally run it on the edge. So as you can see, we're just literally taking off the excess water, but we're not going to dry it. It needs to be damp, but not literally seeping in water. So there we go. We're going to take that off. Now we're going to start with quite a vivid colour. We literally want to start on a base. So we're going to take our sap green actually, and we're literally going to take it just as it is. So we're just going to put that on our palette. I've not got much room because I've been painting before, so excuse that, but you might have a clean palette which might be good. So we're literally going to take our fan brush and we're going to take that sap green, we're going to run it through the bristles. Now what I do is I go kind of a foot like sideways motion just to coat all them bristles. Now as you can see, now we've got a nice bit of paint on there, and we've actually snatched it in a bit if that's the word. Made it nice and thin. Let's put our palette down. So now we just literally, as you can see in my hand's a bit, got paint everywhere. Excuse my fingernails, I need to paint them again. But so we're going to take our fan brush and we're going to hold it between our thumb and our two fingers, just like this. And we're just going to do a sort of feather motion like this. I'll show you in the palette. So we're going to take our fan brush at a kind of vertical angle, And I'll show you in this middle section because I've got some space here, and we're just going to start by lightly feathering that up, and you can literally go how far you want. I'm just going to do this small little patch here just to show you. Now let me show you what happens if you do add too much pressure. So we're going to go back into our colour that we did. Now if we use too much pressure, so if we don't feather it, as we're going to get thicker strokes, and it could end up like that, which is not what we want, but you can turn that into grass still. So if it does happen, you can still turn that into grass. Okay, so we're going to go back into our colour, and we're going to continue with our grass. Now I also take it from the bottom flat and I flick it up, and that just adds the grass in the bottom, that adds depth as well. So we're going to flick that up just like that. Go back into colour, and we're just going to add our strokes until we're happy with kind of the base outline of our grass. You can go how tall you are. So like so. And add a bit more here. And it's not going to be that detailed yet, but we're just going to get a base for what we want. So that's our background colour, a nice vivid green, and I think that might be where I'm going to stop. Now you can go wherever you like. You can create the whole painting of grass if you wanted to, cover the whole canvas. You can go right to the end, but that's going to be my little grass. That's going to be just a little, that can just stay there. So now we've created sort of a background. We're going to start adding depth in now. So we're going to give that about 5 minutes or so to dry. In the meantime, we're going to mix our colour. Now acrylic paint, usually I suggest to let it dry to add the details, because otherwise the colours usually merge like together. Now if you're using oil paints, you might have to wait quite a while to let that dry. So I will give you a tutorial on how to paint detail onto oil paint if you'd like to see that. Now we're going to add some depth, so we're going to still use that colour. I'm going to go back into it, but we're going to add some black. Now we're going to add black, it's kind of like small amounts at a time, and you can go as deep as you like with this colour. I just want it to be, I don't want it to be black, but I want it to be dark enough so we can add some depth. So I think that should be alright. 2 little drops of black. We're going to mix that in. I'm going to wriggle our brush through just to get that all coated. Maybe just slightly darker, because we did use a sap green actually. Slightly darker, just to get that depth. There we go. Wriggle our brush through. Get off any clumps at the side as well. Now you can wipe the excess off on the wipe if you wanted to. I've managed to get all the clumps off my brush. Make it go nice and thin. Now while that finishes drying for a couple of minutes, I thought I'd talk to you about something. Now, when I first started painting, I started with using sort of cheaper materials, because it can be a little expensive when you're buying sort of like more high-end paints and canvas materials. So, and even to this day, like even now, I have a mix of expensive and cheaper paints and sort of supplies, but I still run by using cheaper supplies, because I will put in 2 photos of paintings that I have created with cheaper supplies like paints and stuff and brushes. Like this brush here, this probably cost me around £1, and it's lasted me quite a while. But the paintings that I have created with these supplies, like this goes to show that you don't need to use expensive materials to create art. You can literally create art with whatever you want. You don't need to spend like hundreds of pounds on supplies if you don't need to. Now if you're doing this for sort of a career, or if you wanted to spend some more money on paints, then go for it, because usually they have more quality, and but you don't necessarily need to use them. So we have a shop here in the UK called The Works, which is an art and craft shop, and that's where I started getting my paintings and, you know, painting materials, my paints, my brushes, my palette knives. So I used to get like I think 6 acrylic paints for like £6. So pretty cheap, to be honest, but that's a good kind of starter kit for people. So I would suggest anyone that tries this tutorial, anyone that wants to paint, unless I mean, you can fork out for whatever you would like to buy, but I would suggest going to your local art and craft store and just buying some cheap acrylic paints. I don't mean like kids sort of paints, but I mean like just a cheap sort of, like, you can even get kits now. You can even get kits that come with the canvas, the brushes, the paints, also palettes as well. Sometimes they give you palettes in there, so I would suggest that. But yeah, so this tutorial today, I'm actually using, the brushes that I'm using are cheaper ones, which are actually decent quality, to be honest, and the palettes are also not that expensive, but you can use anything for palettes. Like, you can use a normal palette tray, you can use, I think there's even paper ones now, and you can even use some wood. You can use anything you like. But anyway, that should be dry just enough, yep, to go over it with some depth. So we're going to go into that colour we just made, and we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to feather that through. And as you can see, you can start to see some depth going in there. Now with this as well, I would suggest taking it from the bottom, and we're going to feather it up. We're going to get quite a bit at the bottom actually. And we're just going to feather that up. Now I might add slightly a bit more black to this, just because it's not as dark as I wanted to. So with that mixture, we're literally just going to add a slight bit of black. Now you can keep it as that if you like, but I'm just going to add some more black to that, just to, because I want a bit more depth. Now I'm going to go back in, add some more. I'm going to add some more strokes in here, like so. You can start making little sort of strokes at the end. Start more depth. We're going to go through and we're going to add our darker colour, like so. Now the only annoying bit is you do have to wait for stuff to dry, but acrylic paints don't take that long. It depends on how thick your paint is when you apply it, but usually it shouldn't be too thick. As you can see, we're just bringing that colour up just to blend it in with the top. So there's our kind of basic outline. Now we're going to leave that to dry a bit before we start adding highlights and even more depth. So we've got our basic outline here. Now, as you say, here's my one that I did earlier while I wait for that to dry. So as you can see, we've got kind of the depth in between. We've got the nice vivid greens, and we've got the nice highlights. And I'm going to show you how to create these sort of like textured leaves as well. And there's some black grass here as well that I did, which, if you want a tutorial on that, which is basically the same as that grass, it's just black. But there's our grass. We're going to wait for that to dry slightly, and I'll be back once that is dry. So it should take roughly about 10 minutes or so. So these are the two paintings that I created with acrylic paints, sort of cheaper acrylic paints. I'm going to show you two photos now while we have a little break for the video. Right, now that's dry just a bit. It's not completely dry, but it's not like really wet. So we're going to go in with a lighter colour now, just to add some highlights and to bring it to life. So hopefully you can see this. So we're going to grab some of our titanium white, and we're just going to blend that out on the palette. Now we're going to go in with this light green. We don't want it too light just yet, because we're going to build on it. So I'm going to add some more of that colour, and I'm just going to add some, turquoise, some green to that. You don't have to use turquoise green. You can use any colour you like. You can even add some yellow in here if you wanted now, or whatever you would like. So we're going to feather that through. I'm going to get that on the bristles nice and coated and nice and thin. As you can see from a side angle, that's nice and thin. That's what we want. Now we're going to take this colour and we are going to feather this through. Now we want to go from the ends also, but we're also going to go from the bottom just to blend that in. So we're going to add the strokes. As you can see now, we're getting some more depth in there, some highlights, and it's starting to add a bit more detail. So I'm going to start from the top, and I'm just going to feather that through. Also, I think it's important to like take your time with this as well. There's no rush in painting, so we're going to add some strokes into here. With the bottom, I will be blending it a bit more in a minute, because I'm just going to keep feathering that through, like so. Just keep going until you're happy with how it's looking. I'm just gonna do this all over, because we still want the depth in there, but we're, as you can see now, hopefully you can see, yeah, just making sure that it looks okay on camera. So we're going to add some, we're going to keep going across. Also, we're doing this on the white canvas background. Oh, it's a bit out of focus there. Let me move it back a bit. There we go. Also, we're doing it on a white background, so usually when I paint, I have at least a sea behind or something. So I'm going to keep going through. We're just going to put this everywhere, all over the bottom especially, and we're just going to brush that up slightly. I'm going to blend that bottom in with the top. Trying to put the focus on. Just going to blend that bottom in. There you go, start feathering it up. I think it's my hand that's making it go out of focus. So we're going to keep with this, and we're going to start doing little strokes. Going to maybe pull some out here as well, just like so. So what we're basically doing is doing kind of a good outline for the grass before we start adding more finer details and making it look a bit more realistic, shall we say. So we're going to put some light in as well. We're going to blend it up to the top. You can go how far you want with this. You can add little highlight, or you can add more highlight. It's just totally up to you. There we go. I'm going to add some out here as well. So now we've got the kind of basics. Make sure that bottom's blended as well. Like so, brush it up. Just very light movements. Right, so now we've got our basic grass there. Now what I tend to do now is I keep going back in with a dark colour, light colour, sort of building it up. But I'm not going to go in with the dark colour just yet, so now we can start adding a bit more green and start adding a bit more depth, and go back in with the darker colours and the light colours, and sort of adding a bit more grass and strokes. Now grass seems to go different ways. It doesn't go straight up. Obviously we're doing it straight up for now just to get a kind of base, but it doesn't usually just go straight up. It goes in different directions, especially when there's wind. So we're going to go back into that light green on the brush like that, and I might just use this on its own actually. I'm going to use that on its own. Just coating that brush nicely in the light green, and we're going to start adding some more strokes. I'm going to start bringing this sort of more detailed. As you can see, I'm still horizontal, and to do this sort of in a direction, so we're going to take the brush like we have done before, horizontal, but what we're going to do is we're going to take it up and we're going to slightly curve it with our hand like that. So we're just doing a kind of rocking motion as you go up. So we're going to go up on the canvas and rock it to the side, just like that. And as you can see, we're just kind of tilting it to the side a bit. It's the same for down here. You can just take it off to the side however you want, like so. Run this colour through the bottom as well. This is quite a nice vivid sort of green, the sort of green you'll see like in a field when you've got grass. Now usually up here I'll go straight up, and then I might veer some off to this way, like so, just like that. Just gives it more depth and just makes it look a bit more realistic, I think. I'm going to take that through the bottom as well, just to add some more depth in there. Still keeping that darkness though. As you can see, we're now building, so we've got plenty of layers going on. You might even do that, add some more in there. Just depends on what you want, really. You can add it wherever you like. I'm going to keep flicking it up, like so. We're just kind of building up on the colours here. So I'm going to add some more strokes in over here. The most important thing is just building it up. I mean, you can go straight in with whatever colour you want, but I just like to build it from kind of the darkest to the lightest. But I also go back in and add some more dark or light when needed. So in a minute we're going to add some more dark in, because we are covering a bit with this green. But as you can see the darkness poking through slightly, and it adds some depth. It makes it look like there's more grass than it actually is. So we're just going to add our little grass bits over here. Maybe even take it out even further, like so. Just however you want the grass to lay. There we go. So that's our kind of basic outline done. So now we're looking like grass, and we're going to go back in with that dark colour. So I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to use the wipe that I have. I'm going to take it and just lightly pull that excess colour off. Now I'm going to go back into that dark colour. So that's a sap green. Let me show you. Where have we got it? Over here. Sap green and some black. Might have to add some more actually, because it's just to get some. So some sap green in there. Not much, just slight bits. Add some black onto the end of the brush. I'm going to wriggle that through. We're going to go back in and add a bit more darkness, just so we've got some more depth, because we use quite a bit of green. As you can see, it's kind of like we've got the green at the bottom and we've got the green at the top. You can see the slight darkness coming through. Now we want to add slightly more before we go into the finer details, before we finish the tutorial off. So we're going to go even from the bottom. Now I'm not going to go all the way across with this blacky green mixture. I'm just going to dot it wherever I like. So I'm just going to go sort of staggered, nice and staggered. Maybe do a few taller strands here and there. This just adds a bit of depth to it. Any spaces in between, I mean, you can fill them, because we are using a blank background, so you can see some of the white poking through. As I said, if you're doing a painting with sea, or even just a normal landscape, then you might just want to leave it like this, because you'll have the sea poking through, so it won't be just white, so it'll look a bit more nice. But because we got the white here, I'm not going to bother covering all the white. I'm just going to cover as much as I can do. We're going to take up some of that darker colour right through the grass, like so. Maybe take some from the bottom, and wherever you feel like you want to stop, you can do. I'm just going to take some through the top as well, sort of blend it in. So as you can see, we've got all sorts of kind of green and dark colours going on now, so we're adding definitely some more detail, maybe from the bottom as well. There we go. So we've got our basic sort of grass. We've got some detail in there, some shadows, some highlights. Now we're going to move on to the fun bit, which is adding tiny details and just adding even more. So this is the last time we're going to use a fan brush. So we're going to wipe off the excess, rinse it in water however you like to. I'm going to wipe off the excess on our wipe. We're going to put it into the water and we're going to coat it in the water, but we're going to take off the excess and against our little tub or our cup. So it's damp, but it's not seeping with water. Now we're going to go into a light colour now. This is going to be even light than we did before. Let me just focus that on the... There we go. While this paint is drying slightly, it's going to take like 5 minutes or so, just slightly dry. I'm going to show you what colour we're going to use next. So we're going to take our titanium white. Just going to put it in this mixture because it's still light. We're not going to add much green to this. So we're going to just bring that back and forward, maybe adding a slight touch of light green, just until we get a nice, very sort of light hint of green in there. As you can see, it's very light. And that's going to be our light colour. Literally, it's going to be the smallest touch of green. And this is going to add the perfect highlight before we go and add, before we swap to our other brush, and we're going to add finer details to it. So we're going to coat that on like so, and make it thin, nice and thin. All the bristles are coated in there. Okay, so we're going to, same exact thing, but we're going to focus it a lot more on the top of the grass rather than the bottom. As you can see now with the bottom, the details and the depth, it looks like we've got quite a lot of grass there now. So I'm just going to take this and I'm just going to feather it out. You can go as tall as you want. It really doesn't matter. Add in sort of the soft details through here. This is important to take your time in this bit because you want to make sure you're placing your strokes wherever you want. Feather it up. We're going to blend it in a bit to the middle. We're just going to do the outline first. So I'm going to take our brush and wherever we want our grass to be. And as I said earlier, you can angle it slightly to the right as you're moving. So like so. And you can make, might not be hard to see, but we can make sort of like slanted grass strokes. And we just basically keep going with this until we're happy. This is adding some even more details now. So through the middle, we're just gonna, I'm not going to do loads of strokes, but I'm just going to do random ones wherever I feel like I want some highlights through my grass. You can even do 1 or 2 at the bottom, but I'm not going to do too many because I want that depth. So like this, you can do just a couple of random ones in there. You can even blend it out if you wanted, didn't want it to be too sort of, there we go. Blend it out slightly just to add that sort of highlight, but not make it so sort of straight. And then we are going to just keep going until you're satisfied with it. Now you can use an even lighter colour, you can use a dark colour. I will show you in a minute with this, with a more vivid green with what we started with, so you can just see the comparison really, what I'm doing. But we're going to add the finer details just anywhere throughout where you'd like them to be, just using our small detail brush. Maybe just a few over here. I will show you a tutorial with the grass as well on an actual painting background with maybe a sea or even a mountain or something, which you can see it a bit better, but I just want to give you a basic tutorial on how I paint my grass. And like I said, there's no right way really. Art is art and everyone's interpretation of art is different, so someone might paint grass completely different to how I paint it, and that's fine. It's however you see fit. So now that we've added a few strokes of that in, really all it is now is going back and forth and adding light colours and dark colours, little strokes. I'm going to show you more detail on how to get sort of the little straight lines, little curves, and how we do that. But I'm going to show you with a sort of darker, sort of vivid green, just so you can see it, because the background is kind of a bit too light. So we're going to go into that light green just on its own, which is, let me show you, which is this one. So it's that green there, which is just, it's literally named on the tube light green. So so I'm just going to dip my small brush into there like I showed you with just a tip, and let's make sure this is focused. Now all I'm going to do is the same technique, just going to use a very steady hand. Even if you haven't got a steady hand, it really doesn't matter though, because grass is not always straight. So like I don't have always a steady hand, but I'm just going to take it on the canvas and I'm just going to lightly press, and as you can see we've got a little fine line of stroke. So I'm going to keep going back into that paint and I'm going to add the details in like that, and wherever you like. Now for the curved ones, we're going to just follow, let me show you at the top, it might be easier for you to see. We're going to follow the, right, so we're going to take it in a diagonal and just literally take our brush down like so. So we've got a nice little sort of, let me zoom in just a slight bit. There we go. So literally you can go any sort of angle you want. So we're going to keep going. You can even branch it off, like you can even just branch it off like so, which is also a good way to paint branches for trees. You can go all directions. You can go up like that. You can go normal sort of diagonal. You can go straight up, which is if you want to go that. I find it harder to do this angle because I'm so used to doing that, but you can just do it any angle you want. So we're just going to take it up, feather it over. You can even do like bent sort of grass like that. It's really just practice, that's all it is, it's practice. I'm just going to take it out again. So you can literally just go on for like ages doing this and getting it how you want. I'm just going to do a few more just to show you. You can literally take it down however low you want to. Take it right up if you want, and just sort of like, I'll even show you, let's show you on this one. So we're going to take it out just like a normal grass. We're going to sort of start feathering it off, which is like a sort of plant thing, which I had do in my paintings sometimes, which is kind of cool, like a palm tree sort of. Just going to feather that in like so. You can literally do whatever you like. Just keep using the brush and adding details like so. And as you can see, we're getting a bit of a leaf sort of texture here. And then to this you can add depthness and lightness to this as well. You can add whatever you like and make whatever you like in your own little painting. Like so. There you go. And that's literally the tutorial on how to paint grass. And obviously, like, watch it back if you need to go over stuff. But that's literally it. You start with just a basic green colour, whatever colour you want. I usually use like a lime green. And then you just literally go off that. You add your darkness. You blend it in a bit. Keep adding light colours until you get to your lightest. You switch brushes so that you can get that fine detail, which I do recommend a brush like this. But yeah, I recommend a brush like this to get fine details. But you can craft one yourself as well if you can't find one. But usually they're in most art and craft shops. But They're especially online. Amazon, eBay is quite good as well. But you can even craft one yourself if you can't find one. But yeah, that's a tutorial. I'll do a few more strokes. As you can see, this is my practice canvas. I was going to use this as a little short video for YouTube, maybe do a little painting, but I thought I'll keep this for my practice. Okay, so that's a tutorial. I had to do a separate voice note for this because I ran out of footage, but this is the end of the tutorial. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you can get some good tips on how to paint grass. I hope I explained it well. Also, I want to mention that for all my new subscribers that I recently got, I appreciate you, and I want to welcome you to the goddessart family. And for anyone that likes and watched my videos, I appreciate you as well, because it really does help my channel. Like I said in the previous video, I'm looking to get to around 100 subscribers. That's my kind of next goal. So anyone's help would be appreciated in me reaching that, even if you shared the video or liked. And yeah, so make sure you like and subscribe to keep up to date with my newest videos. And I'll be continuing my fantasy painting in the next day or so. You'll see a video upload, so make sure you get notified with the bell icon that you turn on. And yeah, that's all the video for today. Like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.